Today is January 18th, 2024. We are interviewing Rosa Ivankovsky. My name is Esther Finder. We're in Las Vegas, Nevada, and the language will be English. Thank you for speaking with us today. What is your name, and can you please spell it?
My name is Rosa Ivankovsky. Rosaivanski.
Okay. What was your name at birth?
Mistovsky. Mstovwski.
Where were you born?
In Germany.
What city?
In Hindenburg, Oberschlesien.
And when were you born?
1930.
And how old are you today?
Okay, I'm 93.
Can you tell us about your hometown?
Hindenburg, it was a nice town, whatever I remember. It was a town for miners, middle-class people. Whatever I remember, it was a nice living. There were many Jews living there. Most of them were German Jews, but then also the Polish came in too. So it were like two kind of people, Polish and German. And for a while they didn't get along because the German Jews were all the time thinking they were better than the Polish Jews. Can I stop for a moment?
Sure.
You have to put this down. I shouldn't have said this.
No. Okay, we're back. And you had just spoken about how the Jewish community...
Yeah, they didn't get... But later on in the years, when they started to go in the same school, in the Jewish school, till 35 or 36, they could go to regular school. But then the Jewish kids had to go to a different school, to the Jewish school. So the Polish Jews and the German Jews went to the same school, and so the kids became good friends, and then the parents also, they changed to the Polish Jews.
What do you know about the pre-Nazi years, the relationships between the Jews and their Christian neighbors?
I imagine it must have been good because living in Germany was very good till the Nazis didn't take over. And
go ahead.
I know many of the Polish people, they all emigrated to Germany because of the good life.
Had your family lived in Germany for many generations?
My father came to Germany in 1916, I think. He was supposed to go to the army. He didn't want to go to the Polish army because he was a Jew. At the same time, many young kids went to Germany.
Did you have a large family?
No, I don't have at all. I had a large family once. First of all my aunts and cousins, they all got killed in the concentration camp. I still have some cousins. They must all passed away already.
When you were very young, before the war, what religious traditions did your family observe?
My mother was very religious, always. My father, he was also religious, but not as my mother. They both come from an Orthodox family.
Do you remember having a favorite holiday?
Holiday?
Did you have a favorite holiday when you were little?
Most holidays were beautiful, especially Passover. Because I remember when we had to order everything from Poland because it was strict kosher. We even had to order the soap, but most of us remember the candies when the when the guy who bought, I remember him even, he was a small guy, he had the Hasidim clothes on, and the first thing what he unpacked was the candies they made from honey, and I still smell them. No, I loved Passover.
What was your father's name?
David.
And what was his occupation?
He had a store, a clothing store in Hindenburg. As a young boy, he learned wood carving to support his family. His father died when he was very young, and he had to support them.
Was your father active in the local Jewish community?
Oh yeah, my father was very active. He was the president from the Polish Jews, because they always had, like before, they always had problem between themselves, and when they ever had something to solve, they came to my father. So they decided to make him president from the Polish Jews.
What was your mother's name?
We called Feiga original. I always thought the name was Fella, but the name was Feiga.
And what work did she do?
She helped my father in the store. She was very good at the store. She was a good businesswoman.
Were you an only child?
No, we were 4.
Can you introduce us to your
We
family?
had 3 sisters, 2 sisters and 1 brother. I was the youngest one.
What are some of your earliest memories of your childhood in Germany?
Yeah, we went every Sunday. My father took us for a walk, so my mother could have some peace and quiet in her place. So whenever we walked, we went close to the park, and they always had some kind of meetings. German always had meetings. There was the Communist Party, and the Socialist Party was very big. And when we walked, and they were marching too, and they started to sing Red Front, So that's what I was told from my family, I tell you the truth. And then I wanted my father to pick me up too, and I started to scream also Red Front. But then, when Hitler came in 1933, we still took some walks. But then we didn't, when I saw a red flag, I all the time started to scream Red Front. So my father was holding my mouth down. I shouldn't eat. That's what I was told, but it must. And then what I remember, I never was on the street. We never played with non-Jewish kids. I have many friends, but they were all Jewish. I never knew a Catholic kid.
Let me go back and ask you a question about your shouting Red Front.
Yes.
Why did your father put his hand over your mouth?
Because then when the Nazis were walking in 1933, I should have said it. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I saw a red, so I started to scream. That was it. So my father closed my mouth. I shouldn't go. So we still took walk on Sunday. This even later on I remember. But we tried to avoid the marching.
How did the situation for Jews change over the 1930s? Do you remember the changes?
It started slowly. I think it started to change like in 1934. They always came out with new rules, but still life was not bad. My father had this store and he had many customers, Nazis, and they were all right. Only later on they became, but still he had customers till 36 or 37, and he tried to bribe them to tell us when something goes on or thing. Sometimes they came and told my father, be careful. But they never knew precise what's going to happen.
Do you remember starting school?
Oh yes, it was a big day in Germany going to school. I was 6 years old, and you had to have those big You had to wear your best dresses, and you had to have those big cones, They were done from silk. From outside, color paper. Inside was all kind of candies and toys. It was one of the biggest day for children. And we had to walk in line, and they took pictures of us, and then we started the class. I went already to the Jewish school.
You started in Jewish school?
Yeah, right away, yeah. I think they started, I'm not sure, I think in 35 they started changing schools.
Were you a victim of, or did you witness any anti-Semitism in your hometown?
Not really. I cannot say this. No, like I said, I never mixed with somebody. We only mixed with Jewish people. We never came together with any other. Our maid in house, the one who keeps house, she was very good to us. In contrary, in 37 they couldn't keep any more help, but she came even without my mother asking her to help us. At the store, my father had two girls, sales girls, and they were two Nazis. So he let them go. But anyhow, he couldn't keep them anymore. It was against the...
It was against what, the law?
Oh, the Nazis didn't allow anymore to keep not Jewish help. But then my father had the Jewish guy who helped him in the store.
What do you remember about the radio or the newspapers or films in the 1930s in Germany?
I don't remember much, but I remember my father, every evening he opened his radio and was listening Russian station or the Brit, and all the friends, the Polish friend came all the time to us to listen to the radio. In the daytime they were afraid to open the radio. They only wanted to know what happened. This went on for a few years, till we were thrown out from Germany.
You were young, but how did your parents react to the changes that were happening in Germany?
We were so used to everything that it didn't make much any difference. We were always between ourselves. We never mixed with other people. But that was it.
Were your parents concerned about the changes, or were they worried?
Oh yes, my father wanted to go to, he wanted to leave Germany. I think it was in 36. It must have been 30, something like this. And we had some family in New York, so my father wrote to them to send them some paper, some affidavit. So one day his cousin came to visit him, the one he wrote, and he said, David, you would never have such a good life like you have in Germany. You better stay in Germany because Hitler's not going to be for long. You see, they're going to get rid of him. So that was the end of it. But then my sister got a motorcycle. She got on the motorcycle, and she was very sick, so we couldn't do nothing. And then my father started again with it was in 37 then. 37. He started again. He started to get us out of Germany because the Nazis were already terrible. Every day they came out with another law. One day they came out, they have to have the stores open on holidays. And my parents they were religious, they would have never thought of it. But thanks to the two workers who were in the store, they said, we are going to keep the store open so you can go to shul. But then he started to with America. He said he has to make the paper. So he went to the Berlin, we had the American Council in Berlin, and he started to register us. And they gave him a whole list what he needs. I don't know how they came off 13 point. We need 13 point. You have to have your own affidavits, and you have to show that you can support yourself. You're not going to need any help from the American and everything. And my father did everything, whatever he was told. So in the beginning, it was not so bad. So every time when he came to the council, they said, "Oh, everything is order, but you are missing still one point." And every time was the same point. So he didn't know even what to do anymore. So he said, "What kind of point?" Somehow they always found an excuse for not letting us out. So only one time when he came, that was already in 38, I think, beginning 38. Because I remember I remember he came home, he said, "Oh, we are going to get our visa and we can already order our tickets." So he ordered his ticket for to leave, and then he said he's going to order new furniture. So he went to order new furniture for America, and he let it in there, you know. So then when he came to pick up the visa, he said, "Oh, you're missing one point again." Then it was too late already, the 28th of October. The 27th, then two Gestapo came and put us and gave us the walking papers. We should leave Germany in 28 hours. So all the Polish Jews were supposed to leave at that time. So we right away, after we closed the store and we went all home. That was the last time we saw our store. So everybody, all the Polish Jews came to us and they were asking, "What are we going to do? What we are going to do?" My father said, "There's nothing we can do. I cannot do anything." He tried to go to the Gestapo even to tell them we will get the visa if we could stay long in Germany. They said, "If you get the visa, you can stay longer." But he knew right away that that's not true. But it was a miracle they let him come home. So the next day, it was the 28th of October, 1938. In the morning, all the people went home. Some wanted to go to Poland back. But my father said, "Not 10 horses couldn't take me back to Poland." He never liked Poland, even as a young boy, because there were always anti-Semitism. So then, in the morning, I went to the consul, to the American consul, to get the visa. This room was full already. That was in Berlin. He didn't even see the consul. In the meantime, my mother went to see some friends. They said they're going back to Poland. We still had hours time, so they said they still can cross the border. It was still early. So I was left alone in the house. My mother, before she leaves, and don't open the door. I felt it kind of funny. And then suddenly I heard some marching with foot and things, and I knew right away they're going to come to us. And they were knocking the door. They didn't ring the bell, they were knocking, "Open up the door, open up the door." I finally opened the door. The two Gestapo came, and they were standing in the room with me, and they didn't let me out of his sight. And they asked me where my parents are. I said, "My father's in Berlin, and my mother went to see some friends here." They said, "Okay, we are going to wait of them." So we stand around, and they said, "We cannot wait anymore." So they took me in the middle, they were holding me. I see them like it was yesterday still. I don't know if they were so tall. To me, I was small, so they looked to me like giant. And they had black coats on, and they were holding me in the middle. And I remember they were herding me, and I was screaming. I said, "You're herding me." Some of the neighbors opened the door, but they were afraid to open the doors. And we went down, and when we were walking one block, so we saw my mother and my sister and my brother coming. They saw me, so they came running. So they asked me, "This is your family?" I said, "Yes." So we all were arrested. Only my mother asked if she can go to the apartment picking up some of the changing of clothes. So I said, "Okay." So she went upstairs. She had a big bag, and she took some of the clothes which she didn't even need, but she took the Shabbos Leuchte candelabra, and she took it downstairs. She brought it I still having it here. she took her to a neighbor. We had a doctor, he was also Jewish, they were German. And then she had a bracelet on, which my father brought back from Berlin, and she gave it to another family, Jewish family, to keep it for her. So then we went down and we were all arrested. And the prison was already full with all the Polish people. They were all standing outside. And they're holding us outside for hours. And they put us in that cell, all of us. I don't know how we were. We were sitting on the floor or something. But my mother was so worried about my sister. My older sister went to Gleiwitz to see her boyfriend. And my father was in Berlin, and he didn't know what happened to them. When my father was in Berlin, he saw how the Gestapo was arresting the people, so he knew what's going to happen to us too. He could have saved himself, but he came back. And when he came back, he was at the train station. There were two Gestapo men keep waiting of him already. They brought him also to our prison cell. He had his big briefcase that it got all the time heavier with documents, and he said he didn't even see the council. And we were arrested, and they came out and they said they're going to send us away. So we went in this outside. There were trucks waiting already. They took the passports away. Every truck had some four Gestapo with dogs. And they put us on the truck. They said, you're going to go to Poland. And we were driving for a while, and they let us down. And said, you don't come back, otherwise we're going to send the dogs after you. So we were starting to run. I remember one woman, she lost even her skirt she was wearing. Some lost their shoes, everything. We got lost. We didn't know where to go. So finally, after hours, we arrived to the Poland border. And they were waiting of us already with blankets, with food. They said, we are the last people who arrived. They heard they were shooting some people. They were afraid that they were shooting at us too. I said, no, we got lost. That was in Katowice. So then we went there. They prepared a school for all of us, and we all went. They put us down. They found a corner for us. But then we were so worried about my other sister, about Susie. She was not with us. She was in Gleiwitz so her parents told her she shouldn't go. She said, no, I want to be with my parents together. But she had her own passport. So she said she's going to go to the closest border, that was Katowice. And then she went to the Jewish committee that was even open on Shabbos, because this all happened on Friday. And they were open, and they told them that we are here in Katowice, and we are in the school. And then she came looking for us, and we found each other. Many people got lost. Many families were divided. They couldn't see each other. And from then we were not too long in Katowice. I think they had something with the German that they couldn't keep because it was too close to the border. Maybe the Germans were afraid we would go back to Germany. So they were asking where we want to go. So we decided to change the house because my mother had a sister living there in Poland. So the next day, everything was prepared. I don't know how they knew everything because we didn't know this. The Jewish community did wonderful jobs with us. They all arranged this, and we went to change the house. They were already waiting. They had reserved a hospital wing for us. So they brought us to change the house, and there was also the committee. And we went to this hospital. We all had a room. It was very small, with some beds only. We couldn't even move, but it was okay. And the committee also gave us some clothes. We didn't have any clothes, only what we had on our body, that's all. They brought us coats and clothes. They were very nice, and they tried to help us. But all the Polish Jews were were thrown out from Germany. I don't think so. One Polish jurist stayed in Germany, and it must have been a big job for them to arrange for all of us.
How close were you and your siblings to your family in Poland?
My family in Poland, I was the youngest from everybody always. And I loved going to Poland all the time. In the summer, my parents always took us to Rospsha, and I loved it there. Not my sister. Heidi never liked to go to Poland. And Susie was never staying with us, my oldest one.
You mentioned that your father had his case.
Yeah, this briefcase.
But the rest of you just had what you were wearing.
What we was wearing. My mother took some things for us, but when we looked in, she had a party dress for me on.
Should we take a break until that passes? We're going to take a break till the truck passes.
It's okay.
Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. We had a garbage truck outside. You were telling me about your time in Poland.
Yeah, we have been 9 months in Poland. I went even to school in Poland, also I didn't learn anything because we couldn't understand one word and they couldn't speak Yiddish or something, or they didn't want it to speak, I don't know.
How did your family support itself while you were in Poland?
In Poland, you see, my father must have some money in his briefcase. We were lucky that when the Nazis checked the briefcase, they couldn't find the money. So we still had some money, and then we were helped from the Jewish community there a lot. I don't know if we had to pay for the hospital stay or nothing. I don't know this. I never paid attention.
Was your family able to still observe religious traditions in
Poland? Oh yes, always. My mother was a very religious person. I never knew a person who was more religious than she was, and she really believed in everything. So we were grown up in a pretty religious household.
While you were in Poland, was there anything special that happened to any of the siblings?
Oh yes, we stayed all in a hospital there, but at the evening we couldn't go out. They had a curfew because some of the hooligans were standing outside from the hospital and didn't go away. They were afraid to let us out because we were Jews. They didn't want the Jews coming back to Poland. There were always pogroms in Poland, so.
What was going on in your brother's life at this time? With your brother, what was going on with him at this point?
My brother went also to school with me, but he was supposed to have his bar mitzvah, and he started his study in Hindenburg in Germany still, but after we were thrown out, we didn't have nothing. But then my father, first of all, my father was more in Warsaw at the council. I think they had an American council there to work on our American, but nothing helped. Every time he came back and he left our papers in Warsaw, and then he had to come back, and they called him back. It didn't help. But then he decided that York, that was my brother's name. It was Jacob, but we called him York. He had to have a bar mitzvah. There was some families that were also emigrated in Poland. They were also Polish already. There was this young boy, and he heard that my father was looking for a tutor for my brother. He said, I'm going to teach him. So he came every three times a week. So my father listening to him if he was good enough. So my father found out that he was better than the tutor we had in Germany even. And then he came every day to tutor my brother, and I was sitting there too. And it was so nice having him there. And it was good for my brother. He had a close friend. They became very close. So that was, and then I told my brother in case you forget something, I can help you out. I enjoyed it too, sitting there with him. So then my father had to go back to Warsaw again about his paper. But then he went back, and when he came back, he said, you know what, they're not going to let us go. We'll have to stay here, but I'm not going to let us stay here. I'm going to do whatever it can to go out of Poland. So then he went back and he told the council, maybe he can talk to the council from Germany and make us that we can go back to Germany for a few weeks to get our visa or something. So he said, he looked at my father like if he lost his mind, something like this. Never happened before. So he said, okay, he will try, but I don't promise. So he came back home. My father and my brother had the bar mitzvah in the hospital, but we had it. They were Orthodox shul, and we couldn't have been together. So we were sitting behind a curtain. But when he said they have Torah, that they moved the curtain and we could see him. He was so small. My brother had put a box under his foot that he should reach the bima. He was so good. Oh, it was, everybody had tears in their eyes.
Do you by any chance remember the name of the tutor?
No.
Okay.
I was too young then, I think so. Yeah. But it was close to the hospital. It was very Orthodox. Because I remember my father wanted to have the Kiddush there too. They didn't allow this because, we had it in our room, in our hospital room, and we had to take the beds out so there would be more room for us. But it was nice, and my brother was so proud. He was always very, very self-sufficient. You could depend on him. Yeah, it was sad, but we were happy because we were together. We always were together.
You mentioned that you spent a period of time in Poland. When did you leave, and why did you leave at that time?
Oh, yeah, then one day they got, they called him up, the council, they called him. I think it was in Warsaw, because we went all the time in Warsaw, my father. They called him up, he should come right away to Warsaw. He wanted to talk to him. So my father went back to Warsaw. Then they said, first of all, they told me if he would go alone, it wouldn't be a problem. So my father said, I will never leave my family here. But then they called him back. We have the permission to go back to Germany to get our visa. But first he has to go to the German council, who was also in Warsaw. And they made it very difficult for my father to get only a stamp they had to put on the passport because everything was good. So finally, we got the visa to go back to Germany. For 6 weeks we could stay there. But then my father but then we needed money. So my father sent every month or twice a month to Rospsha some money. He was supporting her, but instead of one a month, he sent twice a month the money to Rospsha, because somehow he had the feeling he's going to need the money. So my mother and we went to Rospsha to pick up the money. And my mother wanted to see her sister still. One was in Pietrikov and the other one was in Rospsha. It was a sad reunion, but so then we came back. My father couldn't wait. He went right away to buy the tickets on the train for all of us. And we left most of the thing in Poland. We only said we went to the Jewish community to thank them because they helped us a lot there. And we went back, it was in May. I think it was the 27th of May or 26th of May. We had then the permission to stay in Berlin for 6 weeks. So we went, the train was packed, this I remember, and we had to go, when we arrived to the border, they saw our passport and they took us right away down. And there were 2 Gestapo women who took us women in a different room, and the men, my brother and my father, in a different room. And they checked us out. We had to take off our clothes and everything. It took us a while. Then finally, they told us we can go. We were waiting off the train station, and there was still Gestapo standing next to my father. They asked him all. He was calm. Funny thing, he was so calm. Then they asked him all kind of questions, how we are going to live there and everything. My father said we had some friend in Poland, and they gave us the address from Berlin, and they owe us some money, and we are going to collect the money. Finally, the train came. Then I don't remember anything. We must have fallen asleep. But my parents were up. And when we arrived in Berlin, we already had an apartment waiting. They wrote to a woman she was a widow. She was Jewish, and she rented us 2 rooms. And then my father told us about the money he had in his briefcase. When he bought the briefcase, they told him he has a secret compartment in. We didn't know this. I think if we would have been frightening, but he had enough money in this compartment hidden. So we had enough money for Berlin. We stayed there. And then they went back to Hindenburg, my parents, to see what was safe still. And my sister went to Gleiwitz to see her boyfriend. They got killed in the concentration camp.
Who was the they?
Susie, the boyfriend from my sister. They lived in Gleiwitz.
His family?
Yeah, they wanted also to emigrate, but they were German Jews. So then my sister went back to Hindenburg, and my parents had to go to the police station right away to register, and they had to get the key from our apartment. In the meantime, they went to see the doctor, who gave them the Shabbasleuchter back to my mother, the bracelet. This woman said it got stolen, but my mother said she was sure that it didn't got stolen. But then they went in the apartment. It was like a tornado went through. They found the toolbox from my father, which was very important to him, his carving tools, and all the pictures, everything was on the floor, and books. So they tried to save whatever they can, and what they don't need, they try to sell. So then they ordered the lift, the crate. Then they ordered the crate, and they wanted to, because we were sure we would get our visa, we had our tickets, and like they said, so he went to order the crate, and he went to see if the furniture was, they still had only 1 couch and 1 chair left, but he still sent it over. He put it in the crate, and then books. That was very important to us all the time. Whatever was left, they put it in the crate, and they sent this to America, to the port, to New York. So sure we were we would get there. And then whatever was left, they tried to sell because we needed money. Then he came back to Berlin. He couldn't wait to get back, so he went again to the consul. He said, "Oh yes, we are going to try to get you the visa, but you have to leave all the papers." Every time he left all the papers, and the briefcase got always heavier with papers. Then he went back, he said, "Oh, if you would stay another 2 weeks here, you would get sure." But there was his friend who were also in Poland, who became very close to us. And he told them, "Don't believe they wouldn't give you the visa, because they told him the same thing, and he has to leave Berlin too." So when he came there to the consul, he said, "Oh yeah, you are ready. We were giving you the visa. You can be packed, everything ready." So in the meantime, my mother went shopping for us. She wanted us to look good for America. So we spent a fortune then. So then we got again, my father got a call back. We should go to the consul. He said, "We are sorry. You need it. Something is wrong again." And the last time he went there, he told us, you know what, he couldn't even get to the council. There were so many people there. The room was full of refugees. I don't know if he saw the council or not. So we came home, and in the meantime, our friend who became close to my father, they met in Warsaw. He went to Italy and he wrote us a letter. In case we don't go to America, we should come to Italy. You're not going to need anything, only a passport. That's all. And the passport, we had everything. So then we were not sure. Then we wrote him he should rent us 2 rooms in Milano. So then we went to Italy.
I'm going to stop you before you go to Italy. I have a few questions.
Yes, all
Okay.
right.
Do you remember the name of your father's friend who suggested?
Leo was his name.
Okay.
He was very nice. He was Polish and his wife was German. So he was also deported to Germany the 28th of October. But his wife could stay in Germany, in Berlin. But then he couldn't take her out because something was wrong with her passport. So he went alone to Italy. And he rented us those 2 rooms.
I still have a question about
Yes.
Germany. You were in Poland for, you said, about 9 months.
Yes.
In that time period, how had Germany changed from when you left, when you were deported, to when you came back to try and get the visa? Did you notice any changes?
We didn't know much, but our landlady said it's impossible. In the evening, they were arresting the people. They were afraid to go out on the street. It was terrible. Food was very scarce. They didn't have almost nothing to eat then. And they started arresting the people too already. That was before the Kristallnacht. I think the Kristallnacht was in November. Yeah, you see? Yes.
Is there anything else you want to add
Yes.
about your time
Berlin, yes.
in Germany or in Poland?
Yeah, I like to add in Berlin something. In the time my parents went to Hindenburg, my sister, my brother, and I, we stayed in Berlin. So we wanted to go out. Our landlady said, be careful, they're going to arrest you. I said, we look like everybody else. We went every day we took walks in Berlin. Then we went to the department store, which we have never seen something like this. And whenever we came home, she was happy to see us. But somehow we were not afraid. I think we looked like normal children. Nothing was different between us. But we were so impressed with Berlin. It was a beautiful city. At the first couple of days, my father took us around the restaurant in Berlin. You know, he went all the shopping for his store, and he told us where he took my mother, where they went out to eat. The best restaurants in Berlin were the Jewish restaurants. And then everything was broken. Everywhere was written Jude, Jude, you know, and the windows were broken. It changed. Nobody liked us. Nobody liked us because we are Jewish.
When did you go to Italy and how did you travel?
We traveled by train. It was in the 6th of July. We had for 6 weeks permit to stay in Berlin, and we had to leave. We had to go to the Nazis again, to the police station, and we said maybe we could get, for another 2 weeks to stay there. But I don't think so that if you don't go out, we are going to be arrested. And this time we wouldn't be sent to Poland. They would have sent us to the concentration camp. This we knew, because we were talking all the time about the concentration camp. My father, remember, in Poland, he wanted all the family should come. You know, we should go out, but they didn't want it. They were too set in their own life. They were really Orthodox. They all had the pious, and my aunts were all wearing shaitels. They were beautiful people. I loved them all. The oldest daughter from my aunt in Częstochowa, after the war, we found out they were in Warsaw ghetto. She was married with a guy, and they were fighting also in the resistance. On the wall was written the name Bluma and Jakob. They got killed in the Warsaw ghetto.
And their last name?
Pankowski was the name, I think. That was my aunt's name, Pankowski. From my cousin names, I don't know. I know only the first name. His name was Jakob. He was a nice guy too. And I had another aunt. She was in France too, in Paris. I met them once in Roche-Château. They got killed on the train when they were arrested in France, in Paris. They lived in Paris. They were arrested on the train and guessed on the train already. They didn't even get to the concentration camp. This we all found out after the war. Then I had another cousin there. He was in the resistance. And one cousin was saved. They took her to Sweden. So the Sweden saved her, but otherwise everybody got killed.
Do you remember the names of any of these cousins?
For my cousin, oh yeah, the one who got saved in Sweden was Masha. And the aunt from Paris was Tante Bluma. Bluma was her name. She had 4 children.
Do you know any last names?
No.
Okay. Before you actually arrived in Italy, what were your expectations of what Italy would be?
First of all, we bought a dictionary. And then, till we came to the border, they always came to check our papers at the train. But after we came at the Italian border, it was a different atmosphere already. Everything was much more friendlier. The Italian came to check. We didn't even have to open our luggage. And we didn't understand what they said, but I imagine they said, have a nice trip or something. It was different. Then when we arrived in Milano, we were lucky. We had a taxi driver who spoke a little German, and he took us to the apartment where we were living. This apartment was also, she was Jewish, and she rented apartment. They were very Austrian Jews, and I loved it there. That was the first time that I could go out free on the street. Why don't you want me to make some?
How did your family support itself in Italy?
My father still had some money left, but not too much. But there were so many refugees there. Milano was full of refugees. If our friend wouldn't rent us an apartment, we wouldn't have where to stay even. So they always meet some refugees. They told us they have a Jewish committee in Milano. We should go there, and they're going to help us. That's what my mother did, and my father. The first thing she told, if they have a school for us, for my brother and me. They said they have a school for refugees kids. It's 1 class only. But they still don't have it. They're going to open up. But every Sunday we should come to the committee in the afternoon. They would give us milk and bread. And that's what we did. But then there was a guy, Dr. Kalb, this I remember his name. He opened it was a storefront. He opened like a place for us kids where to get together. And we get food twice a week, we got dinner. That I had the picture where I was on the blackboard designing the horse. I don't know why they put me on there. I think I was the smallest one.
We'll get to the pictures later.
Hmm?
We'll get to the pictures later.
Yeah.
We have that picture.
Like I said, when we arrived, it was a different atmosphere. Everybody looked friendly. They're always laughing. We couldn't imagine the war was going on even in Italy. We had a hard time. We didn't have any money and nothing, but still. So my mother went to there if we can get an apartment. They said they don't have it, but the first apartment they get, we will move in. It would be cheaper than in the pen. That was a pension, but the lady was so nice. The day we arrived, the next day we had to give our passport because she had to give it to the police station too, the registers. And she said, in case we cannot eat at the pension, we have one burner in the room, and we can cook there. So that's what my mother did. I don't know how she cooked in one burner, but then they tried to go shopping, and it was not easy shopping either because everything was different.
How long were you able to stay in communication with family members that you left behind?
In Poland, the last postcard we tried to get, we never got mail, but the last postcard we got in 1942 from my aunt in Częstochowa. And she told us about Bluma and Jakob, that they got married and still, but they have a hard time, that what it was written in the postcard. It was not easy. She was sick, she didn't feel good. You could see between the lines that they had a hard time. I think the 1943 they got all sent away, or the end of 1942, to the concentration camp.
How long did you stay in Milan?
In Milano, we were almost a year in Milano. We arrived in 1939. In 1940, my father was sent to the concentration camp. But before the concentration camp, the German wanted to have the names from all the Jews who arrived at that time, all the immigrants. And we were on the list too. They wanted us to return to Germany. But we said we didn't know what to do. But then at the committee, they found out there was a lawyer who would maybe arrange this. So my parents went there, they took whatever they have, they gave it to them. It was a miracle. And they put my parents' permission to stay in. He must have known the whole police station, otherwise how could we stay in Milano? But he said the Italians are building a concentration camp, and he's going to be sent to the Ferramonti. So we said everything is going to be better than to send back to Germany, because many of our friends were sent back to Germany, and they all got killed. Very few people from Hindenburg were saved.
When did your father get sent to concentration?
My father was sent in 1940.
Do you remember what time of the year?
It must have been in...
Do you remember the season? Was it cold? Was it warm?
It must have been warm. It must have been in September or something like this, yes. Yes, it was in 1940, because we didn't get any mail from him, but once when we got the mail, he said he need warm clothes. So it must have been hot. The Ferramonti was a weather like Vegas. Desert. Very hot.
What do you know about your father's time in this concentration camp?
He hated this. And they all were hungry all the time. We tried to send them food packages. At the beginning, they had to finish building Ferramonti. Even the barracks were not even finished. He was in the first transport. And Leo, that was our friend, he became so close, so attached to my father that he didn't want it to be separated. So he tried to be all the time together with my father. So he was in the same barrack with my father. They were hungry all the time, this I know. But then there was the director from the camp, from Ferramonti. He came around asking if somebody's a shoemaker. So Nobody was a shoemaker, but my father said, like I said, my father could do anything. He said, I'm a shoemaker. So the director said he needs a pair of boots if he can make it for him. My father said, oh, sure, I can make it, but I need more room and everything. So they took one bed out from the barrack. He built himself a chair and whatever he needed for shoemaking. But then he needed his material. So my father wrote to us. He gave us a whole list what he needed. First of all, we were broke. We never had money. My when we went to school, they asked if my brother want to go to school too. He said no, and my sister also not. But she would like to have a job, so she was taking care of a little boy. The parents were also immigrants. They went to work, and my father and my brother became a furrier. So he took pieces of furs and cut them out, and they had to put them together. So that's the way we're supporting us. But before my father went to Ferramonte, we had an apartment. We moved in. It was nice apartment in comparison to everything else. We had one room was nice size, the other room was so small that if my sisters were sleeping in the other room, they had to jump the beds to go to the bed. But they were walking, so it was not so bad. But when my father was, and then there were another family living below us, they were very religious. They got killed in the concentration camp because they didn't want to travel on Shabbos. They had to run away on a Shabbos. So they got killed. That way found out everything. Then there was 2 bachelor living there downstairs. They were very good to us. So when we got the list from my father, what he need, we didn't have any money, so my mother went to borrow the money from those 2 men. They liked my mother very much. So they went shopping to buy all the material what my father need for the shoemaking. And then he needed some books because he never did shoemaking, didn't know what to do. But then he said if he can do this, he can. So then he started to work on my father, on the boots. Then he started to be a shoemaker, and most people in the concentration camp had holes in the shoes. So he fixed them, so he had enough money, to send us. But then my mother had then my father told the director that he needs some things that they cannot send. My mother should come there and bring it in person. So he wrote a letter to the police station in Milano. They should give her permission to come to Ferramonte. So my mother went to Ferramonte and bought, the things what he needed, everything. And so then they started to build the barracks for families. And he got the first barrack because he was a shoemaker. It was a big thing in Ferramonte then. So he started to work on this, and then the director said that was the best boots he ever had. My father he never took money from him. So we had my father received the first barrack that it was finished. And Leo moved, when my mother came back from Ferramonte, by her everything was beautiful. She didn't see anything. She was happy to be together with my father. Then after a while, we still went to school, and our Italian was perfect there already. They told us even beginning next year we can go to regular school. We don't have to go to special schools. But then we got also the walking paper we should go to Ferramonte. That was in 1941.
When you got there, can you tell us about the conditions that you found?
I can only say my personal impression. When I got to Ferramonte and I saw the barbed wire around us and I saw the police walking around, I got sick I really got sick. Somehow it got me shocked. my mother didn't see all this. He was so happy to see my father that we asked her how. He said, okay, she told us. She didn't see anything. I think it was, but then when we saw my father and everything, we got used to it. She said, don't worry, you're going to get used to everything. But it was always hung. That's what I know. They didn't have enough food. They gave us some ration every week, but then the farmers were standing outside and the people were buying some food when they could. And everybody tried to do something to make some extra money. Some families came with us right away. Slowly, all the barracks was taken up. All the families came to Ferramonte. And they all had all those kiosks. You know what is a kiosk? It's stand. They made stand where they could sell tea or whatever they could. The family sent them things, whatever they could. They sold them to others to have some money left. So everybody tried to work. They had some more shoemakers too there, but my father was still the best shoemaker.
So when did you arrive?
In Ferramonte?
Yes.
It was in 41.
Do you remember what time of year or what the date might have been? Or how old you were when you got there?
Yeah. I was 10 years old. This I remember. I was 10 years old, and it must have been also around September, something like this. Yes, because they made a birthday party in Pieve di Sacco for me when I was 10 years old. Yeah, it must have been also around September. And he wrote us a big list what we have to bring. Most of all, we should bring books. And books, we always had enough. We always brought books. That is very important. And then we bought his toolbox too, with his tools, because it was very heavy. And whatever we had, we brought back. He said, kitchen for the cooking and things. We didn't have it much, but we are assembling in Milano some of our things.
While you were there, how much did you know about what was happening to Jews elsewhere?
Oh, we always knew all the time about the concentration camp. Even we kids in Milano, when we walked around, we knew we are not going to see each other. We said we are going to write each other, but in us, we knew right away that would be the last year we would be in Milano. It was like a normal conversation talking about those times. It was nothing else in our mind. No.
How long were you in this camp?
In Ferramonte?
Yes.
A year.
When did you leave and why?
Oh, then they called us in. The director got some notice that his family should come because they would send somewhere else to small towns in Italy where we would be free but not get out of the town. My sister was not everybody, the singles were left in Ferramonte. But my sister and my brother-in-law were the first one who were called in. So they sent them away. And then they called us. They left 2 weeks before us, they left Ferramonte. We were left 2 weeks later, and we were sent to Pieve di Sacco. The director said it's going to be much better for you. We're going to be in a small town and free. They're going to have an apartment, and the government will support us.
While you want to take a break?
Yeah.
Okay, we're back, and you wanted to share with us.
Yes, that is something. It's funny and sad at the same time. Like my father became a shoemaker, but then he ran out of leather, and he said, what should he do? And he always had the thought we would go to America. He's going to need money. So then he saw some farmers wearing some wooden clogs. So he said, you know what, maybe I can do this. So I never had shoes. My feet were growing more than my than I was small, but my feet got big. So I always had to run around almost barefoot. When it was the weather too hot, I put my shoes on and I couldn't even walk. So my father said, I'm going to make a pair of clogs. So he made them, but he needed wood. But my sister and my brother didn't want her to stay in the barracks, so they stayed with us. But we had one room in Ferramonte and a small kitchen. The kitchen he took over with his workshop. So then we had to we had 2 horses, and everybody got three boards to put on the horses, and then we had to fill our mattresses with hay. So our room was full of horses and board. Then my sister said, they want to stay with us. So my father said he has to shorten the board. So he shortened every board he shortened. So from this he said, you know what, maybe this would be good for the clocks. So he made for me the clocks, and they were so nice. I was the best advertising. So everybody wanted a pair like this already. So that was a good excuse. He shortened all the boards from the beds. Our room became so comfortable we could even walk around. So when we left Ferramonte, we saw the room with the boards. I said, how could we have slept on them? Because all the boards were so short. Then he said, you know, all Ferramonte is walking around with my beds.
While you were in this camp, were you able to still follow any Jewish religious traditions?
Oh yes, like I said, my mother, she tried to keep all the time. When we didn't have bread, it said it was Pesach, so we didn't have to eat. She always tried to keep. That's what I mean. She was so honest. Very few people would be like her. She was a very strong person, my mother.
And what about you? What was your religious experience during this time?
I knew I was Jewish. I didn't care because, you know, my parents took care of us. But I knew I was Jewish, and that was it.
Were there any religious services?
Oh yes, we had, you know, in Ferramonte, those were all the refugees did this. We had a school. That's the first thing. I went to school there too. But they only spoke German then. So instead of learning another language, we learned German. Then they built a shul too. And they needed a rabbi, but they all knew how to pray and everything. So we had a shul too, an infirmary. The Ferramonte was a camp. They were only, you know, they were professionals, all of them. We had so many doctors, so many teachers, poets, musicians, everything was. It was a mixture. Everybody tried to make a living there.
You mentioned your brother had his bar mitzvah. Did you have any religious?
No, this was later on. This when I was you know, in Germany, in Poland, they didn't have nothing. I don't think so the girls had any bat mitzvah.
Right. Let's go on to when the Germans came into Italy. How did things change?
You see, we were sent to Pieve di Sacco. And it was not too bad. We couldn't get out from town. It was a nice town. I went to school without permission. If they would have caught me, it would have been very bad. But like I said, I always found out I don't look any different than any other kids. So somehow and I spoke then perfect Italian. Nobody took me like a refugee. And for a while I was saying I was born in Italy, that I myself started to believe this already, that I was born in Italy. So then, you know, I had this Frank Franca. You know, the Jewish kids got letters from they should start riding with the refugee children and things. And I got this letter from my friend Franca, and we became very good friends. And she had a bar mitzvah. And she wrote us a letter if, I should come too, that she would like that I should have bat mitzvah too. We didn't know what to expect. So my father asked for permission if I can go to Venice to have my bat mitzvah. He got permission, but I don't think so for how long. But we didn't want him to go, so my brother took me to Venice. Oh, that was beautiful, Venice. I had and they prepared those dresses, and I was thinking, oh gosh, it's like a communion. But then I had the bar mitzvah in Venice with my friend. I was 2 weeks in Venice, and these were my best 2 weeks I ever had. I was not used to it anymore. We were so much on the go and living like terrible, and here was such a beautiful apartment. The Italian Jews were still good off then. It was in 42, 43, 42, 43. Only later on they became, when Badoglio went at the armistice, then when the German took over Italy. So we were still in Pieve di Sacco, and we knew it was in September. Yeah, when they took over Italy, and the German occupied right away. They were already before that all the time, but then they had the saying, the Italians didn't have anything to say anymore. So we didn't know what to do. My mother said we have to go in hiding. My father didn't want us to go. He said, the Nazis are going to catch us wherever we are. My father and my mother said, no, we are going. So in the middle of the night, she packed a couple things for us, and we left Pieve di Sacco, and we went in hiding. We were 5 days on the go. We went once with the train, and we were so close to get caught once. We took another family with us. They had a little girl. And I remember I had to walk, so she was so crying. We were hungry. We didn't have any food. She was the only one who got a little bit food. I remember I had to walk the whole train all the time because they couldn't keep her quiet. Then we finally fell asleep. So we had a cabin for ourselves at the train. So the German came all the time up. They were already there. And they were in front of our cabin. They were supposed to open the door, and we were sitting inside. My brother became catatonic, like he couldn't move even anymore for 10 minutes. And we were so trembling, we were sure that if they would open the door, they would have taken us. Somehow they were called away. We couldn't believe it. Then the next station, it was a big city. We got out, and we never went on the train again anymore. We were afraid to go on the train. So we went in a place, we were hiding, but we saw many Italian soldiers too. They were running, they were deserters. And we tried to go in side streets where they wouldn't find us. Wherever you go, there were the Germans. There was not one street, but they told us we should go to a forest that is close by, and we can hide there. We were lucky. They forgot the bread there, so we had a piece of bread to eat at least. And then we saw a port, but we saw the boats, but we didn't see any fishermen. So then my father went to look around. We saw a tavern. In Italian, they have tavern, So he went in and looked around. He said, if he can get some food for us. So they gave him something to eat, but then he asked if we could go to the next city, if somebody would take us on a boat. So a fisherman came out and talked to us. He's going to pick us up. And he would take us to the next city on a boat. The family with a little girl, they couldn't do it anymore. They said they're going to stay behind. We never saw them again. My friend wrote me about them, but I tried to ask him what happened. He didn't answer. So we took the boat. The boat was so old, and the fisherman was so old, he said the German patrol him all the time with boats too, and in case we see one, we should go down there. But the boat, so I'm sure the German wouldn't pay attention to this boat. I'm sure they were thinking, look at this stupid fishermen go on a boat like this, they could go under right away. We went 5-6 hours, and we all were so sick that our head was all the time out of the boat. It was very old, and finally we arrived somewhere in a town. So we were asking again where German are. We were always lucky. We found some soldier deserters. They always told us where to go. And then they saw there's a peasant family living out there. We walked there, and they told us about Pianello, where we saw. They said, this is a family. He's against the fascists. He's a socialist, communist. So he didn't care what he was. And he's always, we say, he's always in trouble. They always arrested him all the time. But I'm sure he's going to help you. So we walked and walked. They took us to the train. We had to go with the train all night. And the next day, when we arrived to a place, we saw a cart, a horse with a cart. And he said, I'm going to bring you to Pianello. That was a small town in Italy. That was all mountain. So when we arrived, he said, he has a grocery store, this gentleman. So we went in, he looked at us, he knew right away we were Jews, we were immigrants, and he helped us a lot. He and his daughter were real socialists, and they had a beautiful library that you could seldom see there. And he helped us. We were 2 months with them. The only thing is, don't say that you are Jewish. Say that you are from the North Italy and they bombarded your apartment. And that's it. We never said our name, what it was, but he knew right there. We were not the only one, but we were the first Jews that came to him. Then he said he'd have to put us somewhere else because the Germans started to come to this place. So we went up to the mountain in Caesarea. And we stayed in Caesarea. So he said, the priest knows about you, but nobody else. You stick to your story. And that's what we did. We lived for a whole year like we did. So the only thing what the priest told us, we should go to church. So my brother went once, he couldn't, but my sister and I, we went almost every week to church, Sunday. He said he's going to reserve the first row for us, and we should pretend we make the crucifix. He saved our life too, this priest. He was one of the best Italian people were nice. Some people even didn't know what Jewish was. I think when we were in Caesarea, if we would have said we were Jews, they wouldn't know what it is. So we rented this apartment. We were staying there until one day we were sure the German wouldn't come up. Who could go this mountain high? You needed a donkey to go up there. But they came up, and we heard they were coming. They were screaming, the German, the German. The Italian didn't like the German either. They were very arrogant with them. So then we went to the forest there. The forest was so thick with trees and bushes, you couldn't see nothing. So we all ran to the forest. For my father and my brother and some other, we digged holes. They should stay in the holes. They shouldn't be found. So this was going on. Then we went to the partisan. My brother became a partisan. He was one of the youngest kids with the partisans. They gave him a gun, which was very old, and they gave my father a gun too, I think, which was from World War I. I'm glad he didn't shoot. And we all, after a while, we had to go because the German came upstairs and they saw our books in the room. We were in hiding already. And they were asking who's living there. They said, there's some family from the north, that's all what we know. And from then on, they came back all the time, the German. We were already then with the partisans. We stayed 1 whole month with them.
I wanted to ask you how your family supported itself when you were hiding in the place with the books.
We didn't have any money, but somehow they liked us. You know, another kid came to us. They told him there's another family from the North Italy, and you should go and see them. So he came to see us, and he stayed with us. His name was Max. He was from Austria. He ran away when he saw his parents got arrested. So he came, and when he saw us, we knew right away, so he stayed with us. And like he and my brother were all the time hungry. Like I said, the Italians were good people, so we didn't know what to do. The partisan came for a while, but they couldn't come all the time. So my father said he's going to the farmers and collect some money. It was still ice outside, this I remember. So he had a big wooden stick and a sack on his back, and he said, I'm going to bring back food. So he went to a couple farmers and he said, we are refugees from North Italy and our home was bombarded. And the Pope said all the Italians have to help all the refugees. And Italians were religious people. So he came back with a sack full of food. And from then on, he tried to go. We didn't need any money. We didn't have any money. My father, my brother, and my sister were heavy smokers. They didn't have any cigarette, so they dried the leaf from a tree and they took paper and they rolled it in paper.
What were conditions like when you lived with the partisans for the month?
With the partisan,
Mm-hmm.
I felt good. I felt like I'm a partisan too. We slept in and stall, how they call this, in a barn. And we slept on the straw too, and it was full of flea. It was terrible. So the partisans said, don't worry, you're going to get used to it. We got used to it too. We got lice, flea, everything. But at least I heard the news already, because the partisans, they always had the radio going, and they were in contact with the Brits because they needed ammunition to go on the. So they were always, but then they said, we have to go in separate place. We have to leave. The Germans are coming around already. They go with dogs to the forest to look for desert and for partisans. They didn't look for Jews anymore then, but that would be a plus if they would have seen some Jews, because they thought all the Jews in concentration camp already. So they said, we have to leave the place and we have to go in few groups, leave Los Angeles. That is, we had to go, that where the partisans were. We were in Caesarea and we had to go even climb higher the mountain. That was in Sant'Angelo, it called this place. There where the partisan was located. There were Italian and Montenegrini. The Montenegrini was the best art. They were from Yugoslavia. We never mentioned about Jews. I don't know if they knew or not. That was like taboo. My poor mother, we were living, she was so sick all the time. When we were living in Caesarea, we were living in the apartment. Below was a stall with pigs. And we had to live above was the room, and they had attic where they kept potatoes. We didn't have nothing to eat, so we shared the potatoes with the pigs. Whether some good one, but sometimes we had neighbors, and she liked me, and she called me in. Like Rosetta, in Italy they called me Rosetta. She always called me in, and she helped me a lot, and she always gave me something to eat. She gave me bacon, whatever it is, and my mother was never against, but she never ate anything. She was happy that we ate. In contrary, she pushed us. Sometimes I brought home some, I gave it to my brother and my sister too. And Max, when he was there, like I said, we were starving all the time. We were all the time hungry.
Who is Max?
Max, that was the guy who came there, the young fellow who saw us. And we said he's our cousin. You know, my sister and he, they looked so much alike, they both were blonde. And they believed it. But he left after a few months because he wanted to go closer to the front.
Were there any Allied forces in your area? And if so, who was there?
No, but no, we only had in contact with the partisan. The partisan had a contact with the Allies. You know, they sent down, they had to send some ammunition. So they sent it down with the...
So who liberated your area?
Nobody. We had to liberate it ourselves. I think we were the only family who had to go to the front to be liberated. If we would have stayed in Ferramonte, we would have liberated from the Allies because they took over Ferramonte in 42 or 43.
What did you know about how the war was going for the Germans in 43, 44, into 45?
For many, when we were in Ferramonte, we didn't know anything. We only know about rumors. But by rumors, you cannot go by. We tried to talk to the farmers, but they didn't know nothing. So then then on the train, we went to Piovillisaco. The first thing, my father bought a newspaper. So then we started to know how it's getting. But it was not good, because the Germans were all over. They occupied everything. You couldn't go one step, there was a German.
You mentioned a moment ago that you had to go to the Allies. Do you
Yes.
remember which country you...
Yeah, we were in the mountain, like my brother, we were in 5 groups. My brother went with the partisans, and they always left note which place is safe to go, because we had to go through the mountain. Some places were good, so wherever we come, I found the note from my brother. Sometimes it was written. And I left, my mother went with my sister and brother. They were in the last group. And I left notes for them. It's safe to go this road. So that's the way we know how to go. But then when we came close, so we were asking where the front is. So then we know it was Umbertiti, that is in Italy also. That was close to Rome already. So we walked for 5 days we had to climb mountain, and sometimes we came even close to get caught, but we never got caught.
So
The last day when we walked, we must have looked terrible. Really, the dress was closed. You know what, I tell you, I don't remember. I only know what my family told me later on when they found me. So when we came to one place, they said, well, if you go straight, where you heard we heard cannon, and that was music to our ears. We didn't think we get caught too. The closer we came, the more the cannon we heard from the Allies. It was not easy, let's say this. We were in the go for 7 years, we were on the run. By us, the war started in 1938.
I'm trying to pinpoint which
Yes.
which of the Allies.
The English. We didn't expect we didn't, I shouldn't say this because we live in America. We didn't trust the Americans anymore. Because my father was working for so many years to get us out. When he talked about America, we didn't even listen to him anymore. So we were lucky. We arrived at the British border there.
Okay. Once your family got to the British,
Yes.
What did your family do next?
Oh, my brother had problems there too. When he arrived, I don't know why, he came with a partisan, but then somehow they found out he spoke German, and we didn't have our paper, so they put him in a camp with German soldiers. And he said, I'm not German, I'm Jewish. I didn't believe him that he was Jewish. So then in the end they had to bring a rabbi, and he said, the Shmone Esrei. He said, can you recite the Shmone Esrei? He said, yes. He said, only a Jew could recite the Shmone Esrei like this. They took his pants off too. But they didn't believe, because many Germans pretend to be Jewish then to save themselves. When we arrived, I don't remember too much when we arrived in the camp. I must have looked terrible.
Which camp?
That was Umbertide, where the Allies was. That was a camp.
Was it for displaced persons?
Yeah, first my brother was, and when I asked where's my brother, he was the captain from the camp. It was nice. They needed a translator because we spoke Italian only, and they were English. So they looked, and they always looked at me like I was something, my brother. He didn't want to tell me what happened with him. Only then they sent him back to this camp to Umbertide, where I have been. So they told him, when I came to camp, finally I found my brother. They told my brother, you have a visitor. He couldn't imagine who was there. When he saw me, he said he couldn't believe his eyes that I was there. Then he asked about his parents and Heidi and things. I said, they must come any day too. So when we all were assembled, we went to the captain room, and he talked to us. He said, it's a miracle. All of you alive. It was a miracle. But my mother said she was always sure that we would, but I don't think so. Otherwise she wouldn't have sent us with different groups. She said at least somebody from the family would stay alive. And from there they sent us to Rome. And from Rome, there were already the Jews, and there were the American Jews, they were already soldiers. And they gave me the name Shoshana. They said, your name is Shoshana from now on. And that was it. And we were then in Cinecittà. They sent in Cinecittà, they have a camp for all the refugees. We said, okay, we didn't have nowhere else, so we didn't care. They said, sure. And we went there to Cinecittà, and we stayed there too for almost a year, till the end of the year of the war. The war, we were in Israel in 1945 when the war ended. But we were in Cinecittà, and they made also schools, and my brother became very active with the Zionists. We were so many children always. So he assembled the children, and he became I think it was the office was there too, where we had them, where we went to register us. So he became a Zionist, and he became the head of the Zionist group in Cinecittà. And thanks to him, many went to Israel.
How did your family
react?
How did your family get to Israel? What was the plan, and how did it happen?
Okay, when we came to, there was rumors. It were rumors they're going to send us back from wherever we came from. We were afraid they were to send back to Germany or to Poland. We didn't know. We said we won't go back. But they said we can register already to go to America or to Israel. So when my father heard America, he right away went to register him. That was in Rome. Cinecittà to Rome was maybe half an hour. Cinecittà was like Hollywood before the war. Even before we came, they still made movies there. So my father registered to America. When he came home, he said he registered to America. We got upset at him because we didn't want it to go anymore. My sister, they wanted to go to Israel, and my mother for certain. And I wanted to remain in Italy. I didn't want to leave Italy anymore. Then he said, okay, he compromised. He's going to register us to Israel too. Whatever going to come first, we are going to go. And Israel came first. But somehow he always thought about America. It was like we didn't want to talk about America. We went through too much because of America. Then we were registered, and then we were supposed to leave Italy already. But we were worried about my sister Susie and Wolfgang, if where they are, because we didn't know any news. We were hoping that they escaped too, but then in the last day we found out we were supposed to leave. We found out they were in Switzerland, because they were in Switzerland. So my father, before he found out, he said, we want to cancel our trip to Israel. We want to go with the second transport. But at the same day he found out, all the offices were in one building, that my sister and my brother was saved in Switzerland. And they had a little boy then, my nephew, my oldest one.
When did your sister separate from the rest of the family?
That was in Piovidisaka. I was very sick, and she said I could recuperate with her better, because she came all the time to visit it. Sometimes I had permission to come, but sometimes she came without permission. So that was one of the times she didn't have permission. She took me she was living in Bergamo. They were all mountain and good air. So she said I should go with her. But when the armistice was, my mother sent my sister to pick me up in Bergamo, because I have been with my sister. She shouldn't come back without me. So that was in Piovidisaka. That was when the German occupied Italy.
Okay, so I'm just wondering when she got married and then left?
No, she got married.
We didn't cover
She got
that.
married in Milano. We were already in Ferramonte, and she got married in Milano. Her husband, Wolfgang, he was already also in concentration camp, only in a different one. They wanted to be together with us. In the end, they sent them over after they got married. They sent us to Ferramonte too, and we all stayed in this one room. It was not easy.
Okay, let's go back now. You were registered to go to Palestine.
When we went to Palestine?
Yeah, how did that go about? Who helped you? Were you traveling legally or illegally?
No, that was the first legal transport. When we went, they started to take registration. Who wants to go to America, to Israel? Like I said, we registered in both ways, America and Israel. Israel came first. And we didn't want to go to America.
So when were you given permission to go to Palestine?
So it was in March we left for Israel. We had to go to Bari, to some camps again. And then we went in Toronto, where they had the boat to go to America. It was a ship. So we were so happy. My mother was so happy, she started to sing the whole time. The only thing, it was an old boat too. It was a miracle, and there are so many refugees there. So, but when we arrived in Israel, we thought, we are okay. Then we saw the British, the soldiers standing there with trucks, with ammunition, and we couldn't go down. We had to go on another camp. We had to go on the trucks, and they drove us to another camp, to Atlit. And Atlit was again barbed wire. And the Israeli couldn't do nothing. And they said, we are legal. We had all our legal papers. We were 3 weeks in Atlit, till finally the Sochnut must have done something to let us out. And then we were driven to Piovidis, to Kiryat Bialik in Israel. It was close to Haifa.
Okay, I have a few questions before we get into the area around Haifa. Who were your fellow travelers on this ship?
There were many. You know what? We were so sick, all of us. I met then I didn't know then, the family from my husband. They were Italian. They were from Trieste, and so they were also on the ship. I was not close to them then. We only were closer than we arrived in Israel. But otherwise, there were many but we all were sick the whole time.
Were they other refugees?
The only refugees. That was a ship of refugees. All were, immigrants. We all emigrated to Israel.
And when did you arrive in Israel? Do you know date?
It was in March.
Of what year?
It must have been the 24th of March.
What year?
45. We arrived there.
And what were the conditions in Atlit?
In the camp, the men were separated and the women were separated. And I felt terrible. Because when I see barbed wire, I get all the time sick. And we had the barbed wire around. All the family who came to meet us, they were standing outside. We couldn't get close to them. They were already in the port when we arrived in Haifa. They were outside already, and they couldn't see us. And they had a lot of families. They could hear screaming them, the names and everything. No, it was like a regular camp again.
And then you went to
Kiryat Bialik. That was close to Haifa. That was a German small town. They were I call it German, they were German Jews. They had stores, and the signs were even written in German. I don't even remember if they were written in Hebrew. But it was a beautiful small town, so clean. It was beautiful, Kiryat Bialik. We arrived in Kiryat Bialik, it was the 15th of April. I remember the date. And finally, my father was happy. They gave him a key. He always wanted to be. He was a very private man, my father, all the time. He couldn't wait to have his own apartment and a key where he can open the door and lock the door with leaving everybody out. And they were building barracks for us in Kiryat Bialik. We saw what it was. We said, oh gosh, they look like Faramonti. The only one who didn't see anything bad was my father and my mother. They looked at this, they gave him the key, he went this, so he said to us, kids, we are home. And that was true. That was the only place that we felt home, Israel, where we felt really free. In no other place you feel like you feel in Israel.
How were you received by the Israelis? Or at that time it was Palestinian Jews.
They were German Jews. In Israel, when we came to Kiryat Bialik, they were all German Jews. They must have emigrated in 35, 36. They all were very good off. They had beautiful homes. Everybody had their home, and they had business stores. And they were also very... I don't think so. They liked us too much. Nobody came never close to them because we were refugees.
Can you tell us a little bit about what the conditions were in Palestine at that time?
At that time, we had the barrack. We liked it. The hot house and the toilet and the showers were outside. We felt very comfortable because we were used to it. We didn't mind. I was not home too long. I went to a Mossad, Ahava. That was for young kids. You are there till you're 18 years old. My eyes are dripping.
Are you okay, or do you need a break?
Yeah, a couple minutes,
We'll take a break. Okay, we're back.
All right.
Okay, and you had talked about being in a Mossad.
Yeah, it called Ahava. It was very close to our home. My mother registered me to go. You are there till you're 18 years old. Then you can decide wherever you can go to the kibbutz or whatever you want to do. That's where I went. I was only home with my parents for a couple of weeks because I right away went there, and I loved it there. And they were all kids, also immigrants who came from different countries. And they opened also a school only for refugee kids. We all didn't know how to speak Hebrew. We had 5 languages speaking in the school. They came from Holland, from French, from all the world they came over. So, and no, I only said I really liked it there, staying there, and I decided when I have been there to go to a kibbutz, but I had to come home. My other sister got married, and my mother got sick, and I had to take care of her, so I had to leave the Ahava. My mother knew about the Ahava. Somebody said they are a religious place. And like I said, she tried to keep up with the religion all over. And she tried to there were strict kosher there too in the Ahava. And it was built in Berlin, in Germany too. There were all German Jews there too. They must have come over around 34.
Did you have much contact with Jews that had been in Palestine before World War II?
No.
Okay.
My Azudi was supposed to come to Israel, to Palestine then. She went to a hashara. She wanted to go with her boyfriend from Gleiwitz. They decided to go to Israel, but nothing came of it. So,
what adjustments were hard for your parents and for your family in general when you got to? What adjustments were difficult?
My mother felt right away good in Israel. My father saw Israel. He didn't see the Israel the way my mother saw it. My mother had pink glasses on. Everything was beautiful. And I loved it there. When we came to Haifa and I saw the Jewish policeman standing on the corner, and I went with Hedi. I said, can you imagine we stand in front of policemen and they were Jews?
And Hedi is your sister?
Yeah, that was my middle sister. She said, yes, I can imagine. For us, this was...
What did people ask you about your time in Europe and surviving the war?
You know what? Somehow they never wanted to know. We never spoke about the war. I don't think that they wanted to know what happened. Everybody knew what happened in Europe. They knew about the concentration camp. I had a cousin in Haifa. My mother was very close to her. They were all the time corresponding for her. She was one of the first people who came to Israel. She was one of the first Chalutzim. Her first husband got killed by the Arabs in 1934. He went out to walk, and an Arab came and put a knife in his back. That was her first husband. So they all knew what happened. But some of them wanted to talk about it. And I don't think that we never talked. I started to talk about our immigration after my family passed away only.
How did you learn that World War II in Europe was over? How did you find out?
We were in Israel already. But for us, the war was over. We knew the war was over already because we arrived in Israel in March, and it was the end already. They occupied almost all Germany.
What was the mood in Israel in May when the Germans finally surrendered?
I tell you the truth, everybody was happy, but the most happy days was in 1948. When Palestine was declared Israel. That was the happiest day for the Israeli.
Okay, we'll get to that in just a minute. When the war was over,
yes,
and you're in Palestine, soon to become the state of Israel, what efforts did your family make to find out what happened to those left behind in Europe?
Oh, we knew. They had lists all the time. They had to, in Italy, they had the, the committee offices, and there were always a list from the survivors. And my father went we were in Cinecittà, it was half an hour from Milano, from Rome, I want to say. And he went every day to Rome to see if somebody survived. Nobody survived. Everybody got killed.
A moment ago, you told me about when the state of Israel
Was
declared.
yeah.
Do you remember the vote on the partition in the UN? Did you follow that? Can you share that with us?
Yes, we know American was 100% for it. England, they needed, I don't know, they needed some, we didn't care. It was declared Israel. It was a Jewish state. And I remember we were dancing the whole night, this I remember. We were on the street dancing. But it didn't take very long, the happiness. The war started right away.
Did anyone in your family serve in the Israeli army?
Yes, my brother and my brother-in-law too. My brother-in-law was the first one to go. I think they called him every month to the army, and he was not so young either anymore. And my brother was called too, but he couldn't take it. He never talked about the war, what happened there. It was like taboo. He became a pacifist later on, my brother. It must have been terrible.
How long did you stay in Israel?
13 years.
What did you do during those 13 years?
I became a beautician. I was a beautician. I was working in a store. And
what else do you want to share with us about those years? What was your social life?
Yes, I wanted to. I didn't want to come to America. I wanted to stay in Israel. And when my parents came before me, because my mother wanted to be together with my older sister, who from Switzerland, they went to America. And they took the whole family out. When it came time for me, I told my father, I'm going to come to visit you. He said, don't come to visit you. We sent you the affidavits already.
So when exactly did you leave Israel?
58.
And where in the States did you go?
We arrived in New York. My first impression, I don't want to say my first impression.
Now you have me curious.
I have to say it. We came at the port, everything looked, Israel was clean. And wherever we went, everything, and when we came to the port in New York, we saw everything was black, and the weather was not too good either. But we had a family who sent us affidavit, and those were I could know the name even, Nissenbaum was the name, and they sent us affidavit. We knew them from Ferramonti. And those were the nicest people you can imagine. So they took us to their home. We stayed one day in New York, and the next day we went to Chicago by train. So I liked Chicago better than New York already. The weather was nice, and there had many trees. So that was the first impression from New York. It was not such a good impression.
How were you treated by the American people?
You want me to tell you something? We didn't have any contact with American people. I had in Israel more contact with American women than here in America. Because the women, they came to the beauty shop, and they were complaining about everything. The towels were too small, the shampoo was not good. So I told my boss, she was very nice, she was also German. I said, why did they come to visit here? They should stay in America. We didn't have any contact with American. we always came together with immigrants, with refugees. Somehow we felt more comfortable with them. And then my whole family was here already. My sister, my brother was before me, he came. And then my sister came from Germany. She couldn't get the affidavits. I still don't know why. They had to live in Germany for 2 years before they got the affidavits. And my brother-in-law was even a prisoner in the German camp. He was in the army, in the British army, and in Greece, and he became a prisoner. He had some medals too, he received from the English.
What was his name?
Heinz Löwy. Heinz, Henry in English. Löwy. L-O-V-Y. You know, in Germany you made it with the O, yeah, you know how.
The umlauts.
It's a...
Did you experience any anti-Semitism or any anti-foreign sentiments in this country?
No, not really. Like I said, for so many years, nobody knew that we were Jews even. We were in Pjorvidisake. We didn't even know if our landlady knew that we were Jewish. Like I said, they always, when I had my bat mitzvah, I received a ring from the grandparent for my friend. It was written Shaddai. I didn't wear the ring till I came to the English side. Then I put it on only. I always wore it on my necklace.
How did you support yourself in this country? What was your main occupation? Were you still a beautician in this country?
Where?
In the United States.
My father started to work like carpenter, and then he was carving. He had this wood, he was carving. In Italy, he was carving. He received the first prize from the De La Sem. And then he became a carpenter, and I became a beautician. I went to the beauty school here in Israel. You had to go for 3 years. You didn't make much, but every month when I got my money, we had to pay the rent for the Sochnut homes. They called Sochnut homes in Israel. Then I started to make some money already.
What does Sochnut mean? What does Sochnut mean?
The Sochnut is like the government in Israel.
You married?
In Israel I married.
Okay.
My husband was from France. He was born in Paris. His parents was Russian. They were in war, they were in Russian, in Tashkent. They lived in Romania. I have his life story too, if you want to know.
He was also a survivor. He was also a survivor.
Yeah, he was also a survivor. Yeah. Okay. They left Russia, and then my in-laws went to live in Germany, and he went back to Paris to live where he was born. And he was 2 years there. Then he came to Israel, like voluntary. He was in the army voluntary, my husband. He was in the Navy. You tape it now? Nothing. Yeah. He came the first week he came to Israel, I met him. That's it.
Have you spoken publicly or to your family about your history?
About what?
About your personal history, your childhood.
Yeah, that's what I say. Yeah, later on, I think when I got older, I started to talk it. So my daughter, when I tell her, said, "Mom, you told us this already, so I must have talked about it." But only later on.
Can you please share with us your thoughts about what's going on now since October 7th in Israel?
First, I felt sorry for the children here. I said, oh gosh, the poor kids are going through what I went through with the Gestapo. But then I said, we Jews are strong. We always are surviving. Whatever we're going through, we're coming out survivors, strong. So now I've started to feel better. And like I said, my mother had a good saying all the time. Like she was a believer. She said it in Yiddish. Whoever starts with the Jews is going to have ein schwarzen Sof.
Translate Schwarz and Sof.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It's going to go under. They're not going to, yeah.
Bad end.
When we were saying something that my mother told us all the time. So,
yeah, have a dark end. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we haven't spoken about that you'd like to add before we conclude?
Oh, I don't know. There was so much things going on in our life all the time that you get. Let's say I'm glad it's over.
You're glad what's over?
Everything is over. It's behind us, whatever we're going through. Sometimes I wonder how we could go through all those years, so many years of the running all the time being afraid. And you know what? It never goes away. Even now, when you see something, you get right away a kind of, you're afraid. It stays with you.
What message do you have for future viewers of this interview?
Nothing, no.
No message?
What do you want me to give you a message? I'm old, and I'm glad. I wish my family, we would have been together with my family. That's what I wish, but you cannot have everything. My whole family passed away when they were still young. My brother was 50 years old. So that's what I mean. I am the oldest one for my whole family.
Can you give us the names of your sisters and brother? You mentioned them here and there, but...
My older sister, her name was Susie. My brother was York. In Hebrew they called him Jacob, but we called him York. My other sister name was Heidi. And my name, it's Rosa.
Okay.
You want to know my husband's name?
Please.
Emil.
Is there anything else you want to share with us before we conclude?
Let's say, I hope nobody's going to go through what we went through. That's what I wish now. Because it's sometimes when you look back, you say, how could we gone through all those things? It's impossible to imagine, especially the whole family together always.
I thank you very much for speaking with us today.
Thank you. But something I must say, thanks to my mother, we were not captured by the Gestapo. And in Poland, thanks to my father, he didn't let us stay in Poland. He did whatever he can to get us out. This I must say so. This is...
Can you tell us, please, who are these people?
Yeah, those are my parents. It was the engagement picture.
And what are their names?
My mother's name was Feiger and my father's name was David.
Last name?
My mother's name was Feiger Weiss and David Smistovsky.
And do you know when and where this was taken?
Yeah, that was in 1917. It must have taken I think it was Częstochow.
Okay, and your name?
My name is Rosa Ivankowski.
Thank you. Can you tell us what we're looking at
here?
Yes,
on the left side that is Susie, my oldest sister.
Last name?
Susie Mistovsky. And the second picture is me, Rosa Mistovsky. And the third one is York Mistovsky. And the fourth picture is Heidi Mistovsky. That was first day school.
And where were these
That
taken?
was in Hindenburg. All of them was in Hindenburg.
What country?
Hindenburg, Germany.
And do you happen to know the years that these were taken? If you don't, it's okay. But do you
I
happen
know
to...
my year.
What was your year?
1936.
Okay. And you're the youngest?
Yes, I am the youngest one. They still could go. This is not important anymore, right?
Okay. Thank you. Can you tell us about this picture, please?
Yeah, this is our clothes store for men only. In front is my mother.
Her name?
Feiger. And then my brother, York. And in the back is my sister, Heidi.
Last name?
Mistovsky.
And when
This is my family.
When was it taken?
That must have been taken in 36.
And where was it taken?
It was taken in Hindenburg in Germany.
Thank you. Can you tell us who this is?
Yeah, that is my brother, York. He must have been here 6 years old.
Last name?
York Mistovsky.
And do you
That
know...
was taken also in Germany, in Hindenburg.
And do you know what year?
Yeah, it must have been around 36.
Thank you. What are we looking at here?
Those are my parents' passport. This is the last day when we were in Germany, when it threw us out. That's it. We were not anymore. That's it. That is the last day they made us sign, we cannot go back.
So the Germans scratched it out?
They were Polish passports. That was the German who did this. The Gestapo did this because they confiscated those passports. And when we arrived at the Polish border, they gave it back to us.
And can you put a date on?
Yeah, that was the 28th of October, 1938.
And can you give me your parents' names, please?
My father's name was David Mistovsky, and my mother's name was Feiger Mistovsky.
Thank you. What is this picture?
That was taken in Milano. They opened a place for all where the kids got assembling there. They were all refugees, kids from all over Germany.
So this was taken in Milan.
That was taken in Milano in 1939.
And so this was taken in Italy. And where are you?
I am the one with the horse. I'm designing the horse.
So you're in the back. Is that you with the white bow?
I must have been the smallest one. That's why they choose me, I think.
Okay, so that's you with the white bow in your hair. And your name?
My name is Rosa Mistovsky. My brother must be there too, but I don't know where.
And the year it was taken?
That was 1939.
Okay, in Italy. Thank you. Who is this?
This is my father, David Mistovsky. That was in Ferramonti. He became a shoemaker. Ferramonti was in Italy, in his concentration camp.
And do you know when this was taken?
Yeah, this must have taken in 1941. 1941, yes.
Thank
you. He was the first shoemaker in Ferramonti.
Thank you. Can you tell us, what is this?
This is a postcard that was the last postcard we received from Poland, from Częstochowa. That was my aunt who wrote the card. And that was it.
Okay, and your aunt's name?
My aunt's second name was Pankowski, Tante Handelaje.
Okay, and your family name?
Oh.
Your family name. What was
Mistovsky.
And where it was sent from Poland?
That was sent from Rospia. This was sent in 1942. That was the last time we received mail from them.
So it was from Poland, sent where?
In 1942.
So it
That
says,
was from Częstochow.
yeah, okay, to Italy.
Yes, we were already in Italy.
Okay, thank you. Who are these people?
This I am.
Which one are
And
you?
this is on the right side, the smaller one.
And your name?
My name is Rosa Mistowski here.
And
Then the second one, it was a close friend from my sister. Her name was Louisa, and her fiancé took all the time those pictures. And the third one is my mother, Feiga Mistowski, and the fourth one is my sister, Hedi Mistowski, and that was taken in Italy in Piove di Sacco.
And do you know what year?
Yeah, this must have been taken in beginning 43.
Thank you. Please tell us about this picture.
This picture was taken in Venice at our bat mitzvah. We both were 13 years old, and in Italy the Jewish people have bat mitzvah clothes like this.
In the dresses.
Yeah, her name was Franca Polacco.
And your name?
Yeah, my name is Rosa Mistowski.
And which one are you, right or
I
left?
am the smaller one.
Okay.
I am the smaller one, and she's the taller one.
And do you know what year this was?
Yeah, 1943. That was in May 1943.
Thank you. What are we looking at here?
This is Cinecittà. We were sent from Rome. We sent in this camp. All the refugees were sent there. On one side were the Jews, and wherever there were also Chinese, Indians. There were every nationality in this camp. And on the other side were the German prisoners.
Which side, right or left, were the Jews?
The Jews were on the left side. On the right side were the German.
And
The prisoner camp.
And when was this taken?
This was taken also at the end of 43. That one we are. Oh no, excuse me. This picture was taken later. This was taken in 50, I think.
50.
Could you cancel it now?
No. We cannot edit.
It was taken after the war. My sister went to visit there, so they took the picture because my brother-in-law is there.
Okay.
No, yeah.
So you were already gone.
Yeah, we were not there. We were in Israel then.
Okay, and your name, please?
My name is Rosa Mistowski.
And what country was this in?
That was in Italy. That is a Cinecittà. That was like Hollywood before the war.
Okay, thank you. Can you tell us about this picture?
Yeah, on the left side is my brother, York.
On the far left?
Yes, York Mistowski. He was the president from the group of children, Zionist group. Then next to him is somebody, I don't remember his name, but on the third one is I, Rosa Mistowski. And on the fifth one is my sister, Hedi Mistowski. Those other kids, some of them I remember, but...
And when and where was this taken?
That was taken in Cinecittà in Italy. That was taken in this camp in Cinecittà.
What year?
It was in 1944.
In Italy.
It was
Thank you.
taken in 1944, yes.
Who are these people?
This is my brother York Mistowski, and next to him it's me, it's Rosa Mistowski. That was taken in Israel, in Haifa, in 1949.
Thank you. Can you tell us about this?
Yes, this is a book I wrote in 2002, and it's my family. That is my brother York Mistowski, then my mother Feiga Mistowski, and the taller one is my older sister Susie Mistowski. Sitting is my father David Mistowski. The other one is Hedi Mistowski, and I'm the smaller one there. It's Rosa Mistowski.
And when and
the
where?
The book was not...
The picture, when and where?
This was taken in Hindenburg in Germany. Must have taken beginning 1938.
And can you explain the title, Not Enough
Yeah,
Points?
not enough point. You see, we were supposed to go to America, and every time when we were ready to go, they always found out we need another point till it was too late for us.
Is there anything else you want to tell us about this book? Who did you write it for?
Oh, I started to write this book to my, only for my family, because I wanted that my grandchildren and my niece or nephews, they should read it. They should know from what, about the family. They they didn't know nothing about us. So, but then it made the round between other people too.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
What are we looking at here?
This is a Shabbasleuchter. My father bought it in Berlin. It must have been about 32 or 33 when he got this.
And your name, please?
My name is Rosa Ivankowski now.
Thank you. And it's for Sabbath candles.
Yeah, that is a Shabbasleuchter. This was the only thing what we got saved, really. And it's a miracle it got saved.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're looking at several things here. Can you tell us about the big round object?
Yes, my father, David Mistovsky, he carved it in Chicago. That is a Seder plate. And the other picture with the two rabbis, this is a needlepoint.
And who made that?
I did this, Rosa Mistovsky, I did this. It was also in Chicago.
And do you know when? Can you give me an approximate year?
This Seder plate, he must have carved this in 1970.
And when did you do the needlepoint?
The needlepoint, it must be in the 80s, 1980s, yes.
So this is an example of your father's skill.
Yeah, this is he did a lot of carving, my father.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And would you give us your name one more time?
My name is Rosa Ivankowski.
Thank you for speaking with us today, and this now ends the interview.
And thank you very much for doing. You must have worked very hard now, and I feel bad.
We're fine. Thank you.